and welcome to Nothing Specific. Today, I'm joined by best-selling author of books such as The Remarkable Power of Consistency, Change Your Life in 10 Minutes, and The Art of Persistence, Michal Stawicki. Michal, thank you very much for joining me.
Jay, thank you for having me. That's an honor.
Not a problem at all. So it's a very, very interesting topic that you're obviously well versed in. Something I think a lot of people could really, really take on board and help change their own lives. I listened to another podcast featuring yourself, and you said that you changed your life around about 10 years ago. What prompted that change?
I read the book by American millionaire Jeff Olson, The Slight Edge, and it repeats the message of Jim Rohn. Success is a few simple disciplines repeated over time. Failure is a few small error in judgments repeated over time. So basically, everything compounds in one direction or another, and I found it so true in my life back then, 10 years ago. I tracked down my failures, my successes, and for sure there were some errors in judgment or some consistent disciplines behind my successes, and then I started practicing this way of life. And yes, I can absolutely attest this is true. Whatever you do consistently, it compounds, and it either compounds in your favor or against you.
Yeah. Was it difficult to make them changes at first? Did you find anything particularly challenging?
The most difficult thing back then for me was just to give myself permission to try. Because I just didn't believe in myself at all, and that I can reach my dreams, achieve anything. And I'm reading some self-help book by American millionaire. What does it have to do with my life? Is it true? And can it be so simple? Because the message it's really simple. Yeah, few simple disciplines. Jim Rohn also said that it takes just like limited number, a few disciplines for every area, not dozens, just a few. And so that was the most difficult part. I remember I was having this message in the back of my mind for a month. Like it wasn't like I couldn't sleep at night, but I couldn't get rid of it. And finally, after a month, I sat down and, like Jeff recommended, brainstormed goals for different areas of my life, and then disciplines. So what I can do daily in order to get closer to those goals. But seriously, like that was so freaking difficult to start, to give myself permission. Then, like, doing those things, they are small things. They weren't that hard. And in a month or so, I started noticing results. So then I stuck to those disciplines even more and get more of them. It was already, I could see something shaping, but at the very beginning, that was scary. And of course, my self-talk was full of bullshit. And it to start was like the hardest thing ever.
Yeah. I mean, I think starting anything new is the most difficult part, and sticking with it. But like with anything, once you get past that initial phase, as you can attest to, the results have been amazing for yourself. Before you made these changes, what did an average day look like in your life?
It looked very average. So I was hired in a big corpo. What was that back then? I think 12. So yeah, big Polish media company. And so I was commuting 1 to 2 hours in one direction to Warsaw, sitting 8 hours behind desk, meetings and so on, going back. I had 3 children under 10. So I was back like 5 p.m. And then taking care of them. And my wife was, of course, so tired after uh, doing all the household chores and keeping an eye on 3 kids. Yeah, so then like doing homework or playing with them, spending some time with my wife, and the next day. And I was also like escaping from my reality. So I like to play computer games, reading fiction, watching TV. So that also consumed quite a few hours of my days, mostly evenings, and
Yeah.
especially like a good fiction book. It's I still have this nasty habit that when I get my hands on a good fiction book, I just cannot do anything else but read it till the very end, like till 3 a.m. And there were days like when I was finishing a book at 2 a.m. or 4 a.m. and then 5 or 6 a.m. I'm waking up for my day job.
So not ideal at the time. I believe you've quit your job recently, about a year or so ago. Was that right?
Almost a year. Yeah, at
Yeah.
the end of August last
And
year.
how was that part of this whole? Was this part of the mindset that you adopted 10 years ago? Was that the next big thing to allow yourself to do? Was it?
Yeah, I dreamed about working from home, not especially for myself. Uh, Especially that I was a lifelong employee. I had no clue how to start my own business. So just working from home, just not commuting, not wasting those hours of my day and being away from my family. Yeah, so I yearned for that for years. Um, and actually, like the tipping point for starting this transformation was I extrapolated my finances till retirement. And in the optimistic scenario, I would have had like $40,000 when I retire. And heck, like I didn't like that picture. That's why I decided to do anything. And also, I mean, like I'm not a stupid guy. Salaries were like kind of my hobby, so I knew to get into like the top percent, you need to either be a director, supervisor, partner, or high level specialist.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't willing to invest my effort into any of those paths. So, and the so people who are not employees at the top earners, they are entrepreneurs. So I thought, okay, I need to start something on my own. And I actually didn't start an actual business till like 2018. But I wrote books, I got some royalties, and I started coaching on the side. And after 5 years, I downgraded my day job to half time and kept it for the next 5 years. Here's half time, then even quarter time, um, mostly for benefits and for the peace of mind of my wife. Um, but in 2008, 18 or 19, I think 19, I officially started the business, but I already had clients there. Then I started my book advertising business, and now it's the main source of my income.
Well, it's incredible. Just that you've been able to manifest all that change from one life-changing experience of reading that one book 10 years ago is amazing. An important part of everybody's day is how you start your day. What does your morning routine look like?
Yeah, I design my morning routine by like successful people to whom I listened or read their advice. And actually, there are some successful people, like one of my virtual mentors, Craig Ballantyne, who advises to start your day, do maybe some basic fitness, and start working. But it's not for me. Like for sure, it's not for me. My morning routine is like 2 hours long, and yes, I do exercise, but I also pray, meditate. I repeat my personal mission statement. I look at my vision board. I listen to a podcast and I stretch while doing that. And I probably missed half a dozen steps. But I really need to, like, I'm introvert. I need this me time. That's one thing. Also, I need to be self-motivated, and I need those disciplines or other habits that remind me about my purpose, like repeating my personal mission statement. I tried Craig's way, and it just didn't work for me. I just couldn't really start. I wasn't that motivated to work, and so yeah, this is how I start my day. I go downstairs, no, first I exercise, then I drink water. I sit down here in my office, pray, read like 6 different books, a fragment of each of them, because they really shaped my personal philosophy. Then I stretch, and while listening to a podcast, that's my morning routine. And then I, again, against advice of many successful people, I plan my day in the morning instead of like an evening before, at least. And if I do not do this, I mean, set the priorities for the day. Oh, those days are so much different from those when I actually sit down, write down like several action items, and then decide on which is the most important.
Right. Okay. So have you, again, you say you've tried, the way of get up, exercise, and then work, that doesn't work for you. The whole planning your day in the morning rather than in the evening, is that something you've sort of tried and tested as well, is it?
I haven't really tried testing in the evening. That's why it doesn't work for me, because my evenings are like I'm totally spent. Like I have zero energy. I have like I'm spent. I'm crawling to my bed and it shut down. So it's not time for planning at all.
Yeah, you sort of come at it with a fresh memory, nice and relaxed, and you can sort of, I suppose, you can visualize it and see where everything goes with a clear mind, I suppose. So you obviously you speak about building good habits. How does somebody prevent themselves from falling back into bad habits?
Oh, there is like zillion ways, but let's start from the habit science. So the habit is a neural loop in our brains. It starts from a trigger. Something is triggering your behavior. Then there is a routine, so the behavior, and at the end there is a so-called reward. I call it endpoint because there are some habits that are there is nothing rewarding in them or not much, but still it's the same loop. You something triggers you, you do something, and then it ends. So like the biggest hack when it comes to breaking your bad habits and avoiding them in the future is deconstructing, well, or rather, what's the right word? Decomposing, finding out what the actual loop looks like for you. And then the most important part is a trigger. So what triggers you to do this or that? And if you can eliminate this from your life, it's so much easy to avoid the bad habit. So, for example, when I've been starting my transformation, I had this habit of playing computer games. I even played them in my day job on my, my employee's computer. Yeah. So, and actually, my trigger for that was this mix of low feelings, boredom, being tired, and having nothing to look forward to. Well, so I just will escape from my reality. That was my trigger. So when I started my transformation, I got more purposeful. I had something to do, something more enjoyable than just playing and wasting my time. So that was like I cut off that trigger from my life when I stopped playing computer games. Then the second hack, like eliminating your trigger, is like the best one. And I also will give another example. Let's say you are going to work next to the pantry or pastry shop.
Yeah.
And so you smell those nice things, you always buy a donut. It's just enough for you to change the road you are going to your work. You will never go next to that shop. Bam, you will never buy a donut. So that's how eliminating the trigger works. And the second best hack is adjusting your environment. So it's so much harder to engage in your bad habits. So in case of my gaming habit, I deleted game from all my computers, and I deleted even the maps and saved games. And so even if I wanted to play, I would have to reinstall the whole game and start from scratch.
Right.
And normally, and that was really a huge bad habit in my life. But also, like I'm telling, like this, the obstacle between me starting to engage into was so big that even if I started to, let's say, install, I could. The process took like half an hour. I could. It wasn't automatic like habits are. Yeah, I couldn't just turn on and start playing. Nope, I had to go over all those hurdles and steps before I could start playing. That's why it really worked. And the same goes for like you're trying to change your diet. So, well, remove all sweets from your home. Then, if you want to have a cookie, you need to go to shop. Okay, that's so much longer process than just go to kitchen. And this is how you consciously set up your environment so you cannot engage, or it's harder to engage into your undesirable behavior.
Yeah. And what I find interesting about that is the things you're doing to stop these from happening. They're not big changes. They're really small, minuscule things. And on the other podcast I was listening to with yourself, you were speaking on that about the power of small. Is that part of that? Is that all about making small changes to eventually build up to a big change in a way?
Yes, and hell yes. So in The Power of Habit, Charles Duhigg, he does some research which I never really found the source of it, but well, I trust the author that he did his homework. Oh no, that was another research. For that one, I might have found it. Anyway, it was the research about the scientists try to find out, okay, what changes people's lives. And of course, like everybody, they had in mind, something dramatic, something big. Maybe someone dies, maybe someone gets sick, or you lost someone close, or you had an accident, or you won a lottery, and so on and so on. So this is what they had in mind when they started the research. But it appeared that the most common factor for actually changing one's life was a habit, just a habit. So something you do consistently. And they call them keystone habits. Well, actually, not those particular habits, but they call the keystone habits a habits that, you start one habit and then like effortlessly you start another and another. And the two instances in the book were healthy eating and just physical activity. And I can really testify that's true. I started, or rather restarted, my push-ups habits in 2006. And then, like one day, it come to my mind, okay, maybe I should couple my push-up habit with my morning prayer. And I did that, and whoa, both habits solidified like not overnight, but over a week.
Yeah.
It was very, very, very hard for me then to miss. But so I kind of had both of them, but they weren't very regular, very consistent. I had always to think about them, not to just do them. And then I coupled them one with another. So it's called habit stacking, yeah, one habit on top of another. And then I would say it took me like 5 more years before I started another good habit related to that, which was, yeah, I actually changed my diet because one day I stepped on a scale and, well, I did my push-ups to lose weight. No, it didn't work. You cannot outwork a crappy diet. Um, so then that day I decided, okay, I will change my diet. And I started changing my diet like that, boom, it just happened. That's how keystone habits are working. So small things like what they do, they are part of your routine, and then they are becoming a part of your identity. And that's very powerful because, and also like both routine and identity are powerful. 5 years after practicing my push-ups, I was like, okay, I won't stop doing my push-ups. Like I already invested 5 years into it. And yeah, I got some results. When I was starting, I was doing 40 in a row. Then 5 years later, despite the fact that I gained some weight, I was doing over 100 in a row. Yeah, so it was for me like obvious thing. Okay, so let's do something else to reach the same goal. Add something on top of that. Quit on white bread and sweets, which is my kryptonite. uh, and it happened. And what else? Also starting small. Okay, so that's what science says. People who started one habit, they changed their lives. That's one thing. The other is, I would say, uh, it was also confirmed by BJ Fogg from Stanford University, who studied human behavior. And after 2 decades, he said, okay, there are a few ways to change one's life, and changing your habits is the most common and most reliable. Um, okay, so let's assume this is how you change by changing your habits. What is a habit? Habit is a routine which you repeat often enough then to become your routine, part of your life, of your identity. So if you try to do consistently something huge, it's freaking hard.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I will become a writer and I will write 1 hour a day, even though I haven't been reading for the past year or 10 years. Gosh, that's hard. Like, get 1 hour of in your busy life, yeah, and crave 1 hour, and then with this unfamiliar activity, God forbid you are starting from scratch, you never written. Whoa, that's hard. Or the typical example, New Year's resolution. I will go to gym, yeah, 3 times a week, pump iron for 1-2 hours. It's big. It's hard to sustain. But if you start something small, which you can sustain, then it can morph into more. So you create a habit and then you scale it up. And sometimes, if it's a keystone habit, you not just scale your particular habit, but add more on top of the first one, and it's more or less effortless. Yeah, you don't think, you don't decide. It's like me with that stepping on a scale. Okay, it doesn't work. Let's do something more. Let's change my diet, like like that. But if you try to start something which is huge and unsustainable, you try hard, you beat yourself because you fail a lot. It's so much struggle. It's so hard to sustain such activity.
Yeah, absolutely. So, excuse me, what are some popular myth habits? Habit myths, rather. Sorry.
I would say the most popular is that you can have a habit in 21 days or 30 days. Yes, there are some habits you can develop in this period, uh, but not many of them. The only research I found, it's widely quoted, and I just regret nobody else tried to duplicate that research. The research about how long it takes to develop a habit, the conclusion was from 18 to 254 days, and the average was 66, so over 2 months. And from my practice, I'm also a habit coach. I coach over 100 people in developing their habits. I say that research was optimistic. Like, it was created in the way that skewed their results toward faster. Like, for example, people were told what to do, and it made sense. Yeah, and most people who try to start a new habit, they don't know the habits science. They have just this whim. Okay, I will do this or that, like going to the gym 3 times a week. That's actually not that bright, because one, it's a big habit, so hard to sustain. Two, 3 times a week, it's so much harder than doing something daily, because then it becomes a part of your routine easily. Your brain, your subconscious brain will quickly recognize the pattern and create this neural loop. But if you go to gym on Monday morning and on Wednesday evening and then on Saturday afternoon, like, there is very little in common between those two occurrences, three occurrences, and your brain is confused, really. So it takes a lot longer before you will develop a habit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I can attest to that. I've been trying to learned a new language for many years and I've never stuck at it. And recently I have actually stuck to it to the point where I start getting worried if I feel like I'm running out of time to do it in the day. And it's just through that consistent telling myself, right, I've got to do this, even if it's only 5 minutes every day. I'm making sure that I continue to do it. And I think it probably has become a habit for me now. So I think it does take that time now. I think you can't just do it for a week, 2 weeks, and then think that it's going to stick. It's the likelihood is, like you say, it's not. So I can definitely say that I've adopted something healthy there anyway. Finally, then, what is the best advice you could give to people who want to start making these positive changes?
Like the best hack really is there is a free training called Tiny Habits. And if you go, I think, tinyhabits.com/join, you can sign up for the training. It lasts just 1 week, and they will teach you how to create new habits. And the premise of the training is that at the end of the week, you'll have 3 new habits, which will be very small, but that's fine. Even the smallest one can change your life. That's one. And the other is that you will get all what I talked about in this interview, habit loop and so on. You'll get it not just as a knowledge, but you'll get internalize it because you will practice it. So it takes, like, I would say, maybe half an hour to just study what they teach you about habits and like design your habits. And then it's just doing them. And each habit should be less than 30 seconds. So maybe 2 minutes of your day. And that's it. 5 days and the training is off. And now you have the baseline and the framework to introduce more and more habits in your life. And you can, part of the training is tweaking your habits, recognizing the triggers and when to start, what to do. So you will consciously think of it. So you'll start being proficient in changing your own life, because if you can change your behavior, you can change then your beliefs, because behavior will affect your results and your results will affect your thinking patterns. So the best piece of advice I can give anyone is to go to tinyhabits.com/join and get this free training, just 5 days, maybe 1 hour of your whole week, and it can absolutely change your life.
Yeah, sounds great. Well, thank you very much, Michal. It's been a pleasure. It's been very insightful speaking with you, and I think a lot of people will be able to take what you said just in this interview and build on that and change their lives for the better. So thank you very much.
You're most welcome, Jay. It was a pleasure. I always love to talk about myself, so no problem at all.
Thanks very much.